Katzman, and today on MasterTalentTeachers.com, we've got Fortune Feimster. Fortune, your career blows my mind. Can I recount this?
Sure.
There was a woman arrested in a Tulsa Walmart while allegedly trying to make meth.
I would have been more surprised if she had been caught doing math in Walmart.
You've been performing stand-up for like 3 years. No one had ever heard of you. And then you made it into the finals of Last Comic Standing. From that show, it was how many months before you were on Chelsea Lately?
It was 6 months later I was on Chelsea, and then I've been there now 3.5 years.
3.5 years as a performer in sketches. You do unlimited characters. You do so many characters. It's amazing. You are a writer, or were a full-time writer and still kind of contribute. And then you're also on the round table regularly. Saw you last night on a show on Comedy Central, Nerdist, called At Midnight.
Yep.
Very, very funny.
Thank you.
You've been on Two Broke Girls, Workaholics, the movie Secret Lives of Dorks, a bunch of other things, and most recently in the new Tina Fey pilot.
Yeah.
Cabot College is what's being called for right now, I think. How the hell did you do this?
Magic! I don't really know. It did kind of happen like that quickly. I was just sort of milling around. Well, I can't say milling around. I was doing improv and sketch and stand-up, and for the 2 years before Last Comic, my roommate sat me down at the time and he was like, "Do you really want to do this as your career?" I was like, "Yeah, look how much I'm doing. I'm doing like one sketch show a week. What else am I supposed to do?" And he's like, "No," because he's an assistant director and he sees very successful people every day, and he's like, the one thing they all have in common is that they work really hard, and if you want this, you're not doing enough. And I was like, "What?" I was super offended, but he was right. And so from that day forward, I don't know what it was, something like clicked in my brain, and for the next 2 years I was like just pounding the pavement. Like, I think I did maybe 6 shows a week, either sketch, improv, or stand-up. And so I think I like the trajectory was a little bit pushed forward more than it might have been otherwise if I had just been kind of chilling and, doing something here and there.
So that seems like, one of the things that we're kind of discerning here is that going full out, like just throwing yourself out.
Totally. I had no life for like from then until now, I've had no life. But for especially those 2 years leading up to Last Comic Standing, I lived and breathed every bit of this business. And, if I wasn't doing a show, I was trying to promote myself, or trying to write, or trying to film videos. Anything I could do to like get myself out there. And I even sent in, I filmed a bunch of characters in my backyard, like so janky, and I sent it into Saturday Night Live, and I tested for them 2 summers in a row.
Really? Just from a self-made character reel? Wow.
The first test I did for them was from that self-made reel, and they called me very last minute. I had 24 hours notice, and then I had to be on a plane that night and audition the next day. And then the next summer, by that point I was in the Groundlings, so they were seeing me in a more legitimate space.
Right.
And so I went back again.
Was an agent submitting you, or were you submitting yourself?
No, I submitted. I finally got a manager when I was in the advanced part of the Groundlings, and my first audition with them, I called her. I had just signed with her 2 weeks before, and I was like, "I'm going to go test for SNL." She's like, "What? When did you submit?" I was like, "I sent in a weird tape like 2 months ago. I never thought they would call me," and they did. I had the casting people there really do look at stuff.
Wow. You sent it in via email or by mail?
I literally mailed it in.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
That's really
I had no representation. I think my headshots were still black and white. Who knows? It was all the wrong stuff, but somehow it happened.
So would you say that a do-it-yourself sort of ethos has been what your career has been made out of, sort of?
Well, that's how it certainly started, because for a long time, no one got it. They were like, "You look different, you sound different, we don't know what to do with you." So, I could not get represented. I could barely get a commercial agent. No one was interested. They did not want what I was selling. And I was like, all right, I'm just gonna do whatever I can do until someone gets it. And then my manager, who I've been with now for I guess 5 years, she came to see someone else perform, and they happened to put me up behind that girl, and she was like, I really like you, and 3 weeks later she signed me, and that was like the beginning of like a legitimate career. So once she and I were together, I was able to like, you know, follow a more I don't know, a specific path of like, oh, now you do this and this and this. And I still run into, there are still agents that are like, no, thank you. But the nice thing is that I'm now at a place in my career where people are like, you look different, you sound different, and we like that.
Yeah. So how do you, so the two things that we're talking about are sort of like throw yourself at it, but you had to have had a lot of self-belief. Like, no one else is getting this, but I believe in it. And you and I both perform stand-up. I mean, do you still have every once in a while a bad show?
Oh, of course. I think I just had one last weekend.
How do you get yourself, I mean, I know for me that is painful.
Yeah.
It's painful, and it makes you, no matter how accomplished you get, there's just, it's a humbling experience. How do you keep out of the doldrums, and how do you lift yourself? What are some of the practices you use to engender your self-belief?
I think just growing up, having two older brothers pick on you all the time certainly helped. You get some steel armor that way. And then I grew up, you know, chubbier, and I again look different, and so I got picked on sometimes. So you learn to just like, I had to believe in myself, because if nobody else was like, you know, hey, let me buy a drink. Yeah, that was not happening. I feel like people who've been attractive their whole life have just kind of been like floating through life, like waiting for people to hand and stuff. And when you're a little different, and you know, life is just not that way. And so you kind of do have to work for every single thing that's given to you. And I think that's played a big part in my career. I'm not waiting for someone to be like, hey, let me give you the best job ever. I'm like, well, let me see what I can come up with, and hopefully someone likes it. So yeah, it's kind of, it's just believing in yourself, because you're not used to other people telling you that first, you know? You're like, you kind of have to convince them.
Totally.